Hi, I've just decided to start a video log. I actually don't know what time it is, but I've fallen asleep twice tonight, and then I just wake up quite startled. Um, it's like I have interrupted sleep. Sometimes my heart's racing when I wake up. It's like a panic attack, and I see things um, either just upon waking or something wakes me up and then I am wide awake and then I see things in the room. And I've done some research and it seems like I'm having some kind of sleep disorder that creates visual disturbances or hallucinations. And the things I see are things like shadow people, full body 3D images of people, mostly men. Um, I've seen a little girl one time. Um, she went running through the bedroom door out into the hallway. She was wearing like an old fashioned little girl party dress. She would have been, I don't know, like maybe between maybe a 6 year old. I saw two Middle Eastern men. One entered the room, walked around my bed, and he was smiling at me, and then his smile became quite sinister. He was jeering at me. He walked slowly around my bed with his arms crossed across his body. And this is clear as day. I see these spectres. And the reason I know I was wide awake was I sat up in bed and I watched him, and the image didn't fade. And then he was joined by a second Middle Eastern man, and they stood off in the corner of my room, whispering together and looking at me. And then one of them, I heard a audible voice say, "Should we tell her?" And that's when I went hysterical and I started screaming for members of my family. I said, "They're in my room, they're in my room." Um, Granddad came running and my heart was racing. He turned the light on and they disappeared, and there was no one there anymore. I was awake. It was not a dream. I can accept that it may be an hallucination, but sometimes I wonder, am I being tormented or haunted? I didn't believe in the spirits or ghosts at all. I've never been superstitious, but now I'm kind of open minded to the prospect because of the things that I'm seeing. I'm being harassed at night. Um, I'm scared to sleep because of these things that I see. I had a few months period of grace where I thought that these problems had left me. Then they've started again. Granted, I have had a considerable amount of stress lately. Um, so I do need help for this. If it is a sleep disorder, I absolutely need help because I'm having disrupted sleep, waking up with your heart racing and being absolutely terrified beyond belief because you think there is an intruder in your room. I often think that someone has broken into our house and there's a bona fide man in my bedroom, and that, as a female, as anybody, that is absolutely terrifying. That is um, a common fear of people, is a home invader. Um, but then I realized that there's no one actually there in a bodily form. Um, I've had these things that I see rush me, um, run across the room. at me. I've had them walk up to my bed staring at me, and then when they see me looking back at them, their face expression looks surprised that I can see them, and then they disappear as if because I've seen them. Um, as I'm studying them, they're studying me. Makes me feel like I'm being watched while I sleep. Um, I only heard the audible voices one time, the should we tell her? I am not schizophrenic, and this only happens um, during my sleeping phase. So, this is why I'm thinking it's more likely to be a sleep disorder. If it was spectres, then I should be seeing things during the day, is my rationale. Um, but I also know you're more open minded in a sleep state as well. So, you might be able to see things that are there more. So, not too sure. Um, I've seen some of them are quite sinister. Like quite often they are smiling and then it turns into this jeer and then it's this like evil kind of grimace, and they push their faces right up against mine. Like they lean over and they lean over and they lean over right until they're in my face, and I'm pushing my head back in the pillow and then I scream. I've woken up the whole house with these incidences, like blood curdling screams, to the point where my kids wake up and they come running. My teenage son, thought I was being attacked by a man in my room. Um, my son's actually had a few incidences actually that woke him up, which made me realize that perhaps it's not just my sleeping disorder. He said that he heard footsteps down the hallway one night, incidentally, at the same time that I woke up with a startled fright. Lights went on by themselves. He seen a black shape in a doorway, and I got out of bed and I saw a light coming from his room, and there he was on his cell phone. And I said, "What are you doing up?" And he said, "I was just about to call the police because I thought there was someone in the house because I heard footsteps and the light went on by itself." So I find that interesting. I can't explain that as my sleep disorder. If I was in bed, I wasn't sleepwalking. But then again, my family does have a history of sleep disorders and sleepwalking. So he could have a sleep disorder as well. He finds it difficult to go to sleep. Um, yeah, so open minded to that as well. But I'm just trying to piece everything together. Um, we have had unexplained images in photography that we take, videos, mini orbs that move ultra fast, some of them unusual colors. We've had unexplained incidences where doors close by themselves, kettles turn on by themselves, a door that wouldn't allow me to open at one time when a friend came over. The door physically was pulling shut. I was pulling the door open. The door was pulling back and resisting against me. I actually thought it was my friend on the other side playing silly buggers and, playing games with the door and pulling back on it. So I just let go of the door and the door shut. I thought it was her pulling the door back. She opened the door and said, "Did you just shut the door on me?" I said, "No, I thought you were pulling the door. The door wouldn't open." Very strange. Um, yeah. My dog used to sometimes stare into space and growl. Um, and look at things that we couldn't see. Then we'd take our camera out and take photos, and there'd be orbs in the photos. And these are the reasons why sometimes I don't think it's a sleep disorder. I think I'm actually seeing things. But then, upon my research, being a rational person, I find things like, I think they're called hypnopompic hallucinations, something to do with your sleep phase when you're drifting into sleep or waking up from sleep. It is a sleep disorder where people see phantom spectres, things like that. So it could be that, or it could be something more sinister. So I do need help. It'll be nice to alleviate these symptoms that I'm having, whatever's causing them, get rid of the cause, get rid of the symptoms. But I need to work out first what is causing this. Do I have a sleep disorder, or am I being haunted, is what it comes down to. Um, at the end of the day, it's very, very disruptive. Um, and it affects my ability to have a peaceful night's sleep. Again, note, I have a lot of stress in my life. Um, I deal with a special needs child who causes me to frequently call the police. Um, just tonight, he has smashed a window in our kitchen deliberately to make a point. Another police call out. So, that there are stresses that can aggravate, um, you know, conditions if you have them. If you get stressed enough, then it can bring on an attack of whatever condition you have. In this case, if I have a sleep disorder, then it would make sense that I would have a disruptive sleep tonight, which I am having. My son has been picked up by the police and placed in Oranga Tamariki's care this evening at my request, because we cannot live with behaviour like that where he thinks it's okay to just throw a can of baked beans through our glass window because he's angry at his mum. That's another issue which I'm not going to touch on today. I really am making this video log just to talk about my nighttime disturbances, if you will. So whatever the cause is, it is causing me to have a sleep disorder, waking up multiple times in the night because I see these things. I've seen like a little goblin creature, a little demon-looking thing. That wasn't very nice. It was definitely an evil-looking thing. It was like small, like a dwarf. That's why I call it goblin. I also saw a man, and he could jump unusually high. He was standing beside my son's bed. My son was actually sleeping with me in a big double bed, and this man came up and stood beside him and was kind of watching him. And then all of a sudden, he saw me looking at him. He waved at me, and then he kind of did this like inhuman leap, like I don't know, like a frog, up onto the drawers, and was perched on the drawers, and then just disappeared. And I was like, what the hell? Um, and another time I saw, it's always the same son that I see these things standing there watching him. My other son, who's seen the things, doesn't have anyone watching him, but he has seen things. When he was little, he used to talk about a man that used to walk through a hole in the wall, and he said there were two men. There was a good man and a bad man. Um, yeah, so he doesn't see them anymore. He doesn't remember those times, but I do. But my other son, he's always had a man that comes and watches over him. My friend, who's quite spiritual, she commented on seeing him one time. This was well before I could see anything. I didn't believe in this stuff because I'd never seen anything in my life. But she said that she saw a man watching over my son when he was a baby. I saw a man watching over my son. One time I was in bed and I suddenly woke up with a start. My heart was racing, and I saw this tall, skinny, black shadow shape of a man walk from my kitchen across the lounge. This is how long I was awake for watching him.